I think the idea of grabbing an elite tight end, going into his second year in an elite offense, everything about that made sense on paper, but it really wasn't until late in the season that we started to see even close to the results that you thought you'd be getting out of Sam Laporta.
I think that's an astute observation right there, too. So better offenses tend to have more weapons at their disposal. Maybe this is something we can look to some of the worst offenses out there. It could potentially be beneficial. And, much like Sam Laporta, we almost have a mirror image season in Mark Andrews. Now, while he didn't have Jameson Williams stepping forward, he did have Derrick Henry come in and take a whole lot of those red zone looks away, which they just simply didn't. They didn't quite have that with Gus Edwards. Yes, Gus Edwards had a lot of looks down there, a lot of goal line carries, but it's a different beast entirely with Derrick Henry. I think that's a really interesting call out. Now, you mentioned Brock Bowers, and obviously the story of the season at tight end. He was fantastic. Did you see this coming? Like, what was your evaluation heading into the season? Like, where did you have Brock Bowers overall on your board?
I did not see it coming to this degree by any means. And, if you look at my tight end distribution across all of my teams this season, Jeff, I had a lot of Jake Ferguson, who was going, a round or two ahead of Brock Bowers on average, and a fair amount of George Kittle, which, of course, worked out pretty well. But for the most part, I didn't really pay up for any of the elite tight ends, Laporta, Kelsey McBride. I was really comfortable shopping in that second or even third tier, talking Ingram, Kittle, and Ferguson. So usually I had my tight ends snapped up by that point. I felt great about Jake Ferguson. That turned out to be a bust as well. I had very little exposure to Brock Bowers. I fell victim to this belief that, we love the player, we love the measurables, we love the production at Georgia, but it's the Raiders. They have Devontae Adams. They have Jacoby Myers, who's one of the most underrated wide receiver twos in the league. And perhaps the biggest factor of all is they have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. So everything that I just mentioned as far as these elite tight ends in fantasy this year, not being a part of elite offenses, not necessarily being tethered to elite quarterbacks, I fell victim to the group thing on Brock Bowers. I loved him as a prospect, but I thought the landing spot would not be nearly as productive as it was for him in Vegas. So I missed the boat. But now I think when you start to look ahead to 2025, you're not getting Brock Bowers at pick 105 in your draft. We know that. So, I do wonder, what is the reaction going to be? Is it going to be, just kind of a race to see who can be the first one to grab Brock Bowers? I think we're going to see him go toward the end of round one in a lot of drafts, if not probably early to mid round two. So you're not going to get that same value by any means on Brock Bowers. We're now to the point where he almost has to put up this kind of season again in order to justify where he's going to be drafted in 2025.
Now, the scary thing is, maybe he exceeds it. If he does this in his rookie season, I do not think he is a one-hit wonder. Absolutely. But to your point, I agree 1,000%. Late first round, almost certainly. Your home league, somebody's going to saunter up to the draft board and slap that sticker up there, so proud that they got Brock Bowers in the first round. Who surprised you the most this season? Like, I have a couple names for me, but at tight end, who was your biggest surprise?
I think it has to be Jonnu Smith. I know maybe that's a cop-out answer, but for Jonnu Smith to end up finishing as the tight end 4 in total production. Now, he didn't miss any games, but he took a 0 in week 4. He was doing almost nothing early in the year. I mean, the entire Miami offense essentially got bogged down while Tua Tagovailoa was out. But the finish to the year for Jonnu Smith was incredible. Even capping it off with 19 fantasy points in week 18. I mean, for one, Jonnu Smith is somebody who's bounced around. We've always liked the player. He's never quite found the right fit. But Miami in general has just not been a tight end team. You can go back, a decade plus. This is not a team that has had productive tight ends. They had a really good receiving tight end in Mike Gesicki a few years ago, who they basically decided, it doesn't really fit our scheme. And it was a team that prioritizes pass catching with the running back. Obviously, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and it was almost a team that you would just cross off. I don't even care who the tight end is, because they're just not going to be productive in this offense. And Jonnu Smith, essentially being somebody that you could depend more on than Tyreek Hill, certainly more on than Jalen Waddle over the second half of the season. I think that's not only one of the biggest surprises at tight end, but one of the bigger surprises in fantasy of the year. Outside of that, think someone like Hunter Henry, sustaining, borderline starting tight end value in a bad New England offense. That was surprising to me. And then Mike Gesicki, who I mentioned, who was exiled from Miami. Cincinnati is another team that has not necessarily had great tight ends. It feels like they're just kind of cycling through, these one-year rentals every single year. And, Mike Gesicki finding a place in that offense as well, and becoming a more and more dependable option in fantasy as we got down the stretch run of the season. That was another surprise to me.
We're still searching for our next Tyler Eifert. Maybe it's Gesicki there. I would give an honorable mention, Nick, as well to Zach Ertz, finding the fountain of youth a little bit down the stretch there. Was very productive. If you streamed him, was obviously very productive in the fantasy championship round. Was the number 2 fantasy tight end for that week. Nick, this is always a pleasure. It's great to hear your thoughts on all of this. Some great call-outs there, indeed. If you want to continue to hear Nick's thoughts about all things not just football related. Oh, he's multi-sport, people. You got to listen to him on RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today. That's weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Nick, appreciate you stopping by, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff. Anytime.
Absolutely. There he goes. All right. One more position remaining, and it is perhaps the most interesting position this year. We had some chalk there, but we had a lot of surprises at wide receiver, and there's no one better to talk to about the position than the one and only Jeff Mans. He's going to be stopping by here in 3 minutes on what we learned from the 2024 fantasy football season, right here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio.
From health and healing to breakthroughs in the lab, a world of expertise with understandable vocab. Doctors on the air with answers and care. They're always prepared. From the heart to the brain, every ache and pain, Dr. Radio's the name that's gonna keep you sane. Where science meets life, it's the perfect blend. From sunrise to night, the knowledge doesn't end.
Hey, Deborah, how you doing? I'm doing better now.
Dr. Radio! Your health's best friend. SiriusXM Channel 110. This week on Let's Go with Bill Belichick, Max Crosby, Peter King, and me, Jim Gray.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Mayo being let go? It's no surprise. There's so many coaches now that are released after a year and a half. You need that shared vision between ownership and coaching and scouting, and that's when you can be successful. And I had that up until about the last 4 years in New England, and when you have that shared vision, you have a chance, you can get a lot done.
Listen to the extended version of Let's Go, now available exclusively on the all-new SiriusXM app.
Hello, everyone. This is your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, with some very exciting news. Remember, my gold sneakers, they went like crazy. Everybody's talking about them. They're still talking about them. People went wild for them, and that's good. They sold out in a matter of hours. So get my new Trump sneakers and don't miss out.
Celebrate the inauguration of President Trump with his amazing new inauguration sneakers at GetTrumpSneakers.com. A true collector's item. Very limited. Will sell out. Go to GetTrumpSneakers.com now to get your Trump sneakers before they're gone. It's an easy URL to remember. GetTrumpSneakers.com. Don't miss your chance to own a valuable piece of history. Go now to GetTrumpSneakers.com and get your sneakers today. See TrumpSneakers.com for details. Celebrate President Trump's return with these limited edition, beautiful new Trump sneakers. Hurry, go now to GetTrumpSneakers.com.
Non-owned products are available in all 50 states. Compounded products are not FDA approved nor verified for safety, efficacy, or quality. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. See website for full details.
Why try Hims for weight loss? If you're interested in personalized prescription options, including Ozempic, Wegovy, oral medications, and compounded GLP-1 injections, and the support to see real results, you might like it. Why try Hims to regrow hair? If a range of treatment options made with clinically proven ingredients like minoxidil and finasteride for thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months sound good, you might like it. Why try Hims for ED? If you've been looking for access to doctor-trusted treatments like Viagra, Cialis, and their more affordable generic counterparts, you and your partner might like it. The Hims process is simple, 100% online, and treatments are shipped free to your door in discreet packaging if prescribed. What's not to like? To save big on weight loss, hair loss, and ED solutions, get started today at Hims.com. That's Hims.com.
Because it's more than just a game. SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio.
Hey, what's up? It's SiriusXM Fly. I can't come to the phone right now because I'm over on Channel 50 playing those 90s
That's spectacularly old school, man.
and 2000s hip-hop. Commercial-free 24/7. Pull up Channel 50 and at home with SiriusXM on your phone, computer, Alexa, TV, or other internet-connected devices. Holla.
First things first.
Burrow in the gun. It's a long count for Jones. Got the Browns to go offside. This is a free play. He throws a deep ball for Chase in the end zone. Jamal, touchdown! Bengals!
Call it outside. Call it.
Back to what we learned. Here's Jeff Ratcliffe.
Yes, that's right. Welcome back to what we learned here. It's 2024 fantasy football. The Bengals home broadcast team never fails. You get the ad libs in there. Always classic right there. And a classic season from Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns. Never saw that before in the history of the NFL. And he was phenomenal. But the position, well, it was a wild ride this year. And to help us make sense of it all, our good friend Jeff Manns is stopping by. Of course, you hear Jeff Manns on Elite Sports weekdays afternoons at 3 Eastern. Manns, it's great to have you here. It's great to pick your brain. And I want to hit the ground running. So let's talk about the position itself. And we know if you were to say fantasy MVP is Jamar Chase. So let's exclude him from the conversation because we know how great the season was. Who was your fantasy wide receiver MVP? Not named Jamar Chase.
Not named. Well, I mean, there's for me. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown would get the next one just because the immense consistency. There was that 3-game run where people got a little bothered. I think we got so used to him scoring every week that I don't know, was it like weeks 12 through 14-ish, somewhere around there. He had a bunch of like 12-point performances, and people are like, "Oh, I'm getting sick of him." It's like, no, you don't realize that. A down week, 12 and a half points, I'll take that because then he finished strong outside of week 18 as well. But I think Amon-Ra for that consistency, right? It's just amazing. 115 catches on the year. The 12 touchdowns were just amazing too. So he is like the runner-up MVP in my mind. But then if you want to expand a little bit, I think the two rookies, one we thought was going to ball out, one we didn't, Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. I mean, they're probably the more surprising assets at the wide receiver position. And I think that you're right, Jeff Ratcliffe. It's all about, I don't know why I use your full name. That's weird. You sound like you are under arrest, sir. Sir, I'd like to talk to you about. I think the position's in good shape going forward. My biggest takeaway from the season from this position, Jeff, is that let's not overreact, please. Because you and I remember back when it was Antonio Brown, the number 1 overall pick, 2016, 2017, and then wide receivers were disappointing that year, and then everybody counteracted. And it took us 6 more years of plunging running backs into the first round for us to realize, okay, wide receiver is still safe. So I think this position going forward is in real good shape, especially, Brian Thomas, Blake Neighbors. I think Harrison will do better. But I just don't want anybody to overreact to the disappointments we may have suffered this year.
Overreaction is just part of fantasy football, though, it seems, Jeff. Or should I say Jeff Manns? And by the way, to your point about Amon-Ra, you were spot on. It was week 12, 13, and 14. He bookended it. Week 11, he was the number 1 fantasy receiver. And week 15, he was the number 2. So you can't keep a good man down. I want to pick your brain a little bit about Thomas and Neighbors. Now, again, right, we knew how good Neighbors was, and Thomas was a first-round talent as well. We just weren't quite sure ceiling floor where he was going to come in. But both of those guys did this, top 10 fantasy seasons in spite of the quarterback position. And let me pick your brain here. How important is the quarterback position to you, like the quarterback throwing the receiver the ball? Because obviously in the case of Chase, that's important. It really helps when you have Joe Burrow. But some of these other guys put up numbers despite it. So what do you think there? Is that part of the process for you, or do you kind of not pay attention to it?
No, I definitely pay attention to it. I think that, as you pointed out and highlights says that Burrow and Chase, one thing we've learned, what makes Jamar Chase great, listen, great player, of course, but that relationship he has with Joe Burrow is special. It's undeniable. It's impenetrable. It just is. It's going to be, assuming they sign, Chase to an extension this offseason, it's going to remain for a long time. And I think that's what we need to pay a lot of attention to. You and I, grew up in this environment, whether it's, as guys like Jeff Blake and Carl Pickens back in the 90s, or Garcia and Owens for a while. But, a special mix of quarterback and wide receiver. And when a quarterback is dependent on a wide receiver and trust them, in hot routes, which is the big thing with Jamar Chase. Anytime a defense blitzes, that's where the ball's going, or 8 out of 10 times that's where the ball's going, or they trust him on jump balls deep down the sideline. When you get that kind of trust factor, I think there's nothing but production that's going to happen out of the wide receiver position. So, there is some skepticism with Brian Thomas because Mac Jones, let's give him some credit, where all he did is pump Brian Thomas full of targets. Like, that is all he did after assuming the quarterback one job when Trevor Lawrence went down. So it's one of those things where I don't deny Thomas will be productive with Trevor Lawrence. Should be obvious, but we do have Christian Kirk coming back potentially. And, and Lawrence has been, spread it around a little bit more, likes the tight end a lot more than Mac Jones. And so I think in that regard, we do have to be at least aware of it and maybe not force Brian Thomas into a spot where maybe the new quarterback or the incumbent quarterback will not push him towards.
And we don't know exactly what's going to happen at head coach / offensive play caller if they don't go offensive minded there. There's a lot of moving pieces. And we have, I'm not going to say that Brian Thomas Jr. is a one-hit wonder, but we have seen one-hit wonders before after a brilliant start to their career, maybe fizzles. So, yeah, this has to be at least part of the conversation. Definitely not calling him a one-year wonder by any stretch. But, all right, so let's look at the other side of the coin here. We talked the good. You do have to talk the bad, and there are a couple candidates for what I'm about to ask you here. Your opinion, biggest fantasy bust at wide receiver this season?
Oh, bust. Big fantasy bust. Wow. Well, you set me up for this one. Anytime you talk busts, you got to go to the double D's, right? I think for me, it's DK Metcalf and it's Deebo Samuel. At least for me personally, I was higher on these guys than a lot of folks. Start out great for DK Metcalf, and then knee injury. We'll never know till the off season, really. But if you're going to squat 600 pounds and be this behemoth, I don't really want to hear about injuries. No offense to him, but if you're Garrett Wilson, you're slight of frame, I can see an injury hurt you. But if you're on the field, I expect production. DK didn't do that down the stretch for us. And then what happened to Deebo Samuel? I don't know what. I up going down. The offense was still cooking. I just don't get it. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of offseason fallout there in San Francisco. But so for me, like those two stand out. Sure, they weren't first or second round picks, but at the same time, I personally recommended. I expected a lot more from both of those wide receivers, and we just didn't get it. In fact, they were pretty detrimental down the stretch.
The scary thing, and I had the same thought as you about Deebo. Like, what the heck? How did we miss on this dude? I looked back, and maybe the one red flag, and it's not even that big of one because of how effective he is, especially in the run game. He's only had one season with triple-digit targets. And this year, he had 81 targets in 15 games. He had 89 the year before. It's just, I guess when you're extremely efficient, it's really hard to keep that up. But I fell for it, too. And honestly, like with DK Metcalf, I've always been a DK Metcalf apologist.
Same.
I didn't think Jackson Smith and Jigba would have taken this big of a leap forward. I thought he would. I thought he was going to surpass Lockett, but I didn't think he was going to surpass DK this season. Hey, real quick on Smith and Jigba. Do you think are we still on the upward slope? Is this are we closer to the peak? What do you think about his career arc? I mean, obviously we're still so early.
Big fan of his game, obviously, but I do think he's an interior, mainly wide receiver. He's best in that interior, and we've seen it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of them, and you can produce top 10 fantasy seasons out of the slot. That's fair enough. Here's my biggest concern is what happens with that offense. Ryan Grubb was let go from Seattle, and you wonder. I was very puzzled by Ryan Grubb. Obviously, national championship game in Washington, didn't follow Kalen DeBoer to Alabama, decided to stay in home, and he had a successful season. Geno Smith had $6 million of incentives and exceeded all of his expectations. The passing offense was top 8 in the NFL. The scoring offense top 14 in the NFL. Like, I didn't feel like Seattle's offense was a problem. What I think is happening is Mike McDonald, the head coach, he is much more comfortable in a non-wide open offense. He wants to help out his defense because he's a defense-minded guy, and I feel like Ryan Grubb is kind of the opposite. And I wouldn't doubt that Seattle ends up hiring a more conservative offensive coordinator, somebody who's more committed to the run game. They do have the duo of Walker and Charbonnet, which does make sense. I think ultimately, Jeff, that's what's going to hurt Jackson Smith and Jigba. and DK Metcalf to that end. I don't expect JSN to be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver next year. A top 24, sure, absolutely, but I don't think the volume is going to be there the way it was in 2024.
Oh boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You're telling me that the Seahawks are going to throttle back a wide open offense and focus on the run game. Pete Carroll, eat your heart out. Okay, Jeff, before we get you out of here, I've been asking everybody this question because I think it is an important question at every single position. Your biggest surprise this year, it could be good or bad. Most people obviously go into the good side of things, but you choose your own adventure here. Your biggest surprise at wide receiver in 2024.
Biggest wide receiver surprise that we haven't talked about already. I think that there's a lot of them. I suppose that none of them kind of correlates with C.J. Stroud, but I think the Texans wide receivers. Now, Stephon Diggs went down, so maybe that's not fair. Nico Collins was a beast, even after he came back from injury, but then down the stretch of C.J. Stroud.
Welcome, everyone, to Ames, Iowa, home of Iowa State, and these Cyclones have been looking to gather strength all morning long. This matchup today is part of the lifeblood of the sport, a rivalry game where the results will be remembered for a lifetime. As we'll see a squad from the Big Ten, the Iowa Hawkeyes, taking on the 23rd ranked team in the land, the Iowa State Cyclones. For EA Sports College Football, I'm Reese Davis, joined here in the booth by David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. And guys, let's get this thing started.
Nico Collins. I was not in on Tank Dell. When Nico and Diggs went down, then I became really invested in Tank Dell and tried to scoop him up where I could. And that also failed during that period. So I think that Texans wide receiver group, we had a lot invested there, and it just did not come to fruition. I think going forward, it's important to remember that quarterbacks are not what they show in year one. They aren't. You mentioned it earlier, Matt, with my mind went to Braylon Edwards. Remember Derek Anderson and Braylon Edwards, the one-hit wonders at wide receiver? That's where my brain went. And it's like, that can happen because the quarterback regresses. So when you start pumping up Caleb
And the Hawkeyes about to kick it away and get this season started.
That maybe they're not as good as they show anymore. Maybe they're not as bad as they regress in year two.
Takes it inside the 25, and he'll bring it back. They get him stopped, but not before he gets it out to the 40-yard line. The Cyclones offense takes the field to start this game off. While these two might have struggled to stay prominent on the national stage, the Cy-Hawk Trophy always carries paramount importance.
And it means so much to the fans. Late in these games, a lot of times the energy is through the roof, and they both want to destroy each other.
And what's interesting about this rivalry game is it sets the tone for both programs. They're generally played early in the year, and for
step forward, but I don't think anybody saw this dude finishing as a top 5 fantasy receiver this year. That's what he did, Jeff. That's what he did. Hey, man, always a pleasure talking to you. I love the insights you gave us here. And, of course, I love listening to Elite Sports. Weekday afternoons at 3 Eastern. The great Jeff Mans. Mans, always a pleasure, sir.
really catapult you. The loser's got to pick up the pace themselves.
And a really good job on the quarterback being very decisive. He saw his matchup, went for it, attacked it, got a positive game. I would say he's going to find that guy for more time.
So we'll set
Here's
the
the handoff.
2025 fantasy football.
You'll take 4 yards on first down every time, second and 6.
Serious
The Cyclones have been bedeviled over the years by close losses, pulled out one of their own the last time.
It's all about executing when it matters the most. The coaching staff loved the way their players were ready to go late in the game. So let's see how this one turns out.
Yeah, and they executed so well. Iowa, obviously, always the same. So physical, so tough. The Cyclones found
Turned country icon. You want to hear a variety. You don't want to hear the same song.
Make plays
new
and
things
win
for
the
your ear
football.
to gravitate towards.
From the 36, a third down, and you wonder if they're willing to take 2 plays to get the first. Back to pass, it's Beck. It's complete to the left. Now well within striking distance as that third down play gets to the first at the 29. I was starting to think about what they would do if they didn't pick up the first down here, but I guess that's a moot point now.
Moot point for sure, and the head coach was probably telling them 4 down territory, we're going to keep a field goal, whatever the next decision was going to be, and now they'll see, like, don't worry about it. New set of downs, nice execution by this offense.
Well, the linebacker showing you read and react. He knew exactly where that running play was going, and he beat the football to the line of scrimmage and forced the TFL.
After losing a couple on that last play, here's 2nd and 12. They'll run it out of the shotgun. And the defense finally makes the stop after the sweet run and good game.
And I don't care if I get it by 2, by 20, by 30, by 40. I just want to get the first down, understand the situation, understand where the sticks are. Doesn't have to be sexy, but I got to make sure I get to that stick, get to the first down.
And he goes out of bounds after coming up with positive yardage there.
This defense is going to have to be careful. Not only do they have to worry about this guy running the football, but they've got to keep their eye on him when he runs routes, too. He is a versatile back.
He's going to pass on 2nd down. He's got it still on his feet. Works his way to the 4-yard line, and they'll have it 1st and goal.
And you see tight end matchups all over the field, all the time. Now, it used to just be in the red zone. Now, you just find the big fellas and put them in the slot, try to give him the ball as much as possible because you're going to make big plays.
They bring him down, and he's going to lose a yard on that one.
Well, they were trying to set up the option, but the quarterback had no chance. Did you see the defensive tackle penetrate? What a great first step. He shot right through the offensive line and got the TFL.
And the D denied him on 2nd and goal. To the air, it's back. Fires to the end zone. And he's got it. Touchdown, Iowa State.
We love as a head coach to watch your offense take the field, establish a rhythm and consistency the way they did there. Everything they dialed up was working to perfection. They go 10 plays on the opening drive and cap it out with a touchdown.
About to kick it away after scoring the touchdown. And he'll just take a knee, and this drive will start at the 25. The Hawkeyes offense will get the ball for the first time. Here are our impact players for this game, and it goes beyond executing an assignment to make an impact in the game.
Yeah, obviously we were talking to both coaching staffs this week, and we asked them who needs to step up and play well. They immediately pointed to these guys right here. They are the key for their respective teams.
Yeah, and they don't always show up in the box score, but these are the guys that are leaders. These are the guys getting everybody organized and have to play well for their team to succeed.
And you can give all the credit to the crowd for that one. Offense, no chance and call for the false start. So the decision has been made, and the coach will take the penalty. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. He wants to throw it. Just a short pass to the tight end. Spins away from one. He's run out of bounds, but not before turning in a big pickup and moving the stick to a first down.
Well, I know the tight end did some good things after the catch, but got to give the quarterback credit, too, for the location of the throw. Because he put it out in front of his big man, he was able to make the catch and accelerate, creating some distance there between him and the defense.
And really, that's one of the things that I see most frequently. I'll see fantasy managers who will go through a season, and then that's it. They just kind of forget about it all. They go into the NFL playoffs, then maybe it's March Madness, then maybe it's the Masters, and yeah, sure, they stop in for the NFL draft, but they don't start paying attention again until July. Well, that's 7 months. And if you're anything
after
like
that big gain and open things up, they'll put it in play from the 40.
So let's make note of these things. Let's learn from these.
Looking for a crease. It's Washington.
Well, it's plays like that that'll help this offense stay in rhythm all game long. If you can have that kind of success on first down running the football, it just opens up your entire playbook moving forward.
Don't overreact, right? You got to react, but not overreact. What works one year may not more than that. And yes, his
Good
closest
spot
number
after that 7-yard pickup on first down. It's 2nd and 3.
Joe Dolan said it when we talked about best ball earlier in the broadcast. Things were fantastic with the snag of Saquon Barkley. Same thing with Adam Wilson. Things were fantastic if you got Derrick Henry. Even Utah Robinson, Jameer Gibbs, even the likes of Josh Jacobs.
Give to the running back. Dragged down at the 43, but they've got it in enemy territory. They picked up 10 and give him a first down.
And that is just an attitude run, running it right up the middle, right into the teeth of that defense.
That really applies to following exposures as is in best ball. But in redraft, your RP was a pretty successful approach this year. It will continue to be a successful approach. That means just prioritize the early round running backs.
Damn it.
And that pass picked off. He would have loved to make the big return there, but he still gets his team involved.
He's got to pick and choose their spots when they want to be really aggressive and try to fit balls in tight windows. Great job on the DB, making a big play, and getting the ball back to his offense.
Who we've seen
looking for a man. It's back.
Career.
Spits it out to the back. Got his man. He's run out of bounds, but a big play on that one, and it'll be a first down. And the Cyclones come to the line in the hurry up.
Scared away from zero RB.
And off from the shotgun. That's what you expect from a senior. Don't give him any extra yards. Great tackle there. This rivalry is so important to the people of this state, and it dates back to 1894, guys.
Yeah, it goes back a long way. When you watch the product on the field every year, it's usually low scoring, but it's a lot of physical, tough people on the field.
Yeah, and people in Iowa, they just love football. And this is a rivalry game that really hits home for so many. Regardless of which side of the fence you're on in this game, Iowa or Iowa State, it means so much.
Easy open.
And it's caught. Touchdown, Cyclones.
After starting the season 0-1, this offense felt like they just left plays on the field in that first game. But so far today, they're taking advantage. QB's making good decisions. Guys are stepping up. They've limited the mental mistakes. They haven't turned the football over. It's a different-looking offense here in Game 2.
He thought about bringing that out for a half second, but he'll take a knee and they'll bring it to the 25. Iowa has the ball back on offense. To say this has been a slow start is a bit of an understatement, and they really need to get it going here, Jesse.
That's right. The opponents, they're firing on all cylinders right out of the gate. Offensively for this unit, they've been slow and struggling. They need an explosive play to wake themselves up.
And it's just the first quarter, so it's not the end of the world. You've seen slow starts, but you got to continue to pick and pick and pick until you find that play or that scheme that you can use against this defense.
Nice quick throw there. It's so important for quarterbacks to be able to find a rhythm and to be comfortable and confident. You want to just get the ball out quickly, make it an accurate and easy throw. And you can tell that these two guys, they rep that play in practice all the time, and it's now showing up here on the ground.
Give to the single back. They knock him down after he picks up 5 out to the 34. It's third down from their own 34 as they try to keep the drive moving. They'll try to pick it up on the ground. The Hawkeyes pick up the first down.
Yeah, and a nice job dialing up that short yardage situation play call there, David. They needed 1 yard, they picked up 2.
Yeah, great job up front, great job by the back, knowing where they need to go. Nice having a hole where you can get through and not have to just do it all on your own as a running back.
Final 2 weeks of the season for fantasy purposes isn't too much value given a draft. That's the question. Now,
dropping back, it's Sullivan.
I can't tell you
they're bringing heat. Fires to the right. Incomplete. And man, it seems like you to get that one back. Defense that close to an interception.
This defense is dialed in. One interception had a chance right there to get another one. Everything this offense does so far, they are reading it, breaking on it, making some plays.
They'll go back to work after the incompletion. Here's 2nd and 10 from the 36. He's looking to throw. That pass is incomplete, and they might be fortunate it wasn't knocked free for a fumble. It'll be 3rd down.
It doesn't take this defense a lot of time to get to the quarterback, man. They've got speed all over the place. They hit him so quickly, and because of that, the ball falls incomplete.
They line up, and it is a long way to the sticks from here. On 3rd and long, trying to have a big completion here. And he was hit just as he released it, and it falls to the turf. And the Hawkeyes will punt it away on 4th down. They'll have to punt for the first time this afternoon. And the returner will be knocked down.
Being aware of the quarterback position. Being aware that guys will come out of the door.
Just enough time for one more snap before the end of the quarter.
But there you have 3 of the top 10 guys this year.
Looking to go up top on 1st down. Quickly out to the tight end. And that is good versatility there, and a big hit from the backer in pass coverage. That's the end of the period, and Iowa State has the lead. And that was an impressive and dominant first quarter. Let's take a look at the stats before we move on. Now, the challenge here, they've taken a punch, but they can't let it get out of hand as we start the second. 2nd down coming up.
And if it's only 1 year with that opponent, no.
The running back has it.
Prioritize
Picks up a useful 5-yard chunk out to the 30-yard line.
And, you know, when we talk about great 3rd down defenses, it really starts with them getting stops on 1st and 2nd down. You've got to get those stops early in the drives to set up 3rd and long, so that's a missed opportunity.
Come on, man. That's bullshit.
And this defense has its work cut out to get this dude on the ground. He was shedding serious tackles on his way to picking up the first. The give to the back. And he'll pick up 1. It brings up 2nd and 9.
And a lot of times you want those big plays. You want those splash plays. But sometimes you're going to take some losses. You're not going to run the football overly well. But if you continue to run it, you can at least create some balance. You at least have a threat on it. Otherwise, you're just going to abandon it, and now it's just going to pass the game.
And they'll wrestle him to the ground after a short gain. Ball is at the 41 as his defense tries to force the punt on 3rd and long. Dropping back, it's Beck.
That's all.
He makes a catch. Afterburners coming. Touchdown, Iowa State. And once he found open space, the band might as well start playing.
One of the reasons this offense is so exciting to watch, they've got guys that are dangerous. If this quarterback gets through his progression, David, he gets you in stride, these guys will take it to the house.
And it's your job to do the rest, right? You hit me in stride, right? I don't have to stop running. I don't have to break down. It makes it so easy, the connection between the quarterback and wide receiver. You can tell this is a good one, and that's why they got 6 of them.
Iowa has it back on offense, hoping to ride the wave to the end zone. Trailing by 3 touchdowns. If you're going to get back in it, David, the time to start is right now.
Got to start now. Defense gives him a
and the pressure gets him back at the 8-yard line.
When it's a play-action pass, that quarterback really has to sell the fake. He can't tell his offensive lineman's getting beat right away while he's selling the fake. He had no shot.
Steps away. And as he throws, nowhere close on that one as he got drilled trying to deliver the football, and now they face 3rd down.
Into the divisional round.
And that's why you always want to be pursuing the football. QB scrambling, he rolls out to the right, but don't quit if you're on defense. Get somebody after the QB. They got to him, they hit him, and forced the incompletion.
On 3rd and long, doesn't need to take the check down. And the double coverage, and they made him pay. It's intercepted. Not a lot of return, but they can live with that as they've got it at the 49.
And that's just excellent. Man, come on, nobody throw the football. Look at everybody plays man across the board. You still have the safety in the middle of the field. Nobody open. If I'm a QB man, I don't need to force it. I don't force it in tight windows if it's not there. He throws it, unfortunately, gets the interception. Bad decision by the QB there.
They've got it at the 37. It's 1st and 10.
NBA Pacers beat the Cavaliers 108-93. NBA Cleveland's 12 wins.
Oh, he drops the
Celtics got there.
football.
Elvis
He
120
had
to
him right
119.
down the gut of the field. Instead,
Celtics
it'll be
is
second
Thunder
down.
clobbered the Knicks
Couldn't make the
132 to
connection last
95.
time. Let's see if they
The
throw it
Eagles
again.
fifth. The Knicks destroyed the Bucks 140 to 106 behind 44.
From the gun, they'll try to impose their will. Able to squeeze out a couple on the play. It's down at 35.
And offenses want to continue to feature the run. They want balance. Even if it's not super successful, you can take it a little bit at a time just to keep that defense honest.
Now facing a third and long.
It's happening in sports.
Looking to throw it back.
On Sirius
Looking
XM.
to the big tight end. And that's incomplete. A defender all over him. Knocked the ball to the ground. Fourth down coming up. They'll try to get something out of this drive and kick the field goal here on fourth down.
This is the 15 Fantasy Sports
And the
Radio
kicker
Stars
delivers the
for
3 to salvage
2025.
that drive.
Exclusively
And they'll
on
push that
Fantasy
lead
Sports
out a
Radio.
little further. They'll kick it away after putting up a field goal on that last drive. From inside the 10-yard line, he'll bring it back. He was looking for some running room, but not much to be found as he stopped at the 18. Iowa has the ball back on offense. They face a pretty tall mountain here, Jesse, down 24, but if they're going to climb it, this is a good time to start.
Sense of urgency's got to be.
Time to take a shot. And he throws his third pick of the day. His head has to be spinning. And they capitalize not only on the pick, but the...
And we rip open the door to the best of our abilities. And yes, we find that crystal ball. And yes, we dust it off, polish it just a bit. And then we start to look ahead. And we give you the 2025 breakouts, something we have been doing for a number of years here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I have been very honored to quite often, if not every year, be at the fore of hosting and handling these duties. This year is a little different. I make this joke every year, and I guess the running gag had become so tiresome to the parties that decide this stuff that they said, okay, Kyle, we're tired of the jokes. We don't want to hear it anymore. It's very boring to know that every year you're going to use the same old gag.
To give the offense tremendous field position. Line gets set, first down.
You know that, say, in 2019, we would have 19 breakouts.
From the gun to Gill, looking for room. They get him stopped at the 26, but not before he picks up 5 yards. Halfway there on first down, it's second and 5.
Not me. I'll be the opposite.
Quickly complete.
But in 28,
runs through the tackle. They make the stop, but the sweet pull and catch is plenty to give them a first down. The Cyclones are threatening in the red zone.
45 breakouts for 2025. That is not happening tonight.
Out of the shotgun, they go to the ground. They bring him down, and he's going to lose a yard on that one.
They're trying to run the ball on first down, guys, but just nothing doing up front. Their offensive line got blown up on that play. There was nowhere for that guy to go.
Relying on the run, he gets a couple before he's knocked down. Ball's at the 13. Boy, they'd love to move the sticks here and take a shot at it on first and goal.
Better come through.
Trying to move the sticks on third down through the air. And the incomplete pass will bring up fourth down. They'll try to cap off this drive with a field goal. Never in doubt. And that lead grows even bigger. That lead just keeps getting fatter, and this kickoff team's doing a little running.
So that has been entertaining as well.
Here's the return from inside his 10. Nice job executing all of the assignments as they put a stop to that return at the 22. Iowa has it back on offense, hoping to ride the wave to the end zone. Well, let's see if this drive goes better than the last one. They were in and out quickly after the quick pick, David.
Yeah, first play, big mistake, man. Now, let's get this offense in a little bit of a rhythm. Maybe before you open it up again, Palmer, or do you trust him right away?
He seems to me like the guy maybe that just needs to kind of get into the flow of the game. So maybe you get the running game going here and just give him some easy looks to let him get
We'll talk NCAA football.
Got 6 on first down. Now a lot of options on second and 4.
So it's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple of hours. And the other thing,
the hand to the running back.
is not only take a look at
They get him on the ground, but not before he gets enough for the first down.
We will let you know.
Well, I know this is an offensive line that has a ton of pride. They want to come out each and every game and really impose their will on the D-line. They got just enough push there on that run play to pick up the first.
We've reached the 2-minute warning, and this thing has been one-sided, and they hope to at least have something to feel good about going into halftime. They're going to ride this running back. He locked up and held on to bring him down.
That back had absolutely nowhere to run the football. Actually, is he counting? I think he's counting to make sure there's only 11 guys on defense.
On this app. I am here to...
Finally got there.
Got stuffed on first down. It's 2nd and 10. They've got him looking run, but they're going to throw it. Here he goes breaking the pocket. They'll force him out of bounds after a solid pickup on the play.
Well, great job there by the defense because they weren't able to get him sacked right away, but you saw the coverage in the back end. Nowhere for the quarterback to throw the football. Didn't get the sack, obviously. You don't get the negative play, but you also don't give up a big one. You're feeling pretty good about where you are right now in this drive.
The receivers often will run their route based on a side adjustment. And he can't make the connection on his first attempt.
And I like the aggressiveness on 3rd and short, trying to throw the football, take advantage of a look that they got. They weren't successful, and now it's 4th and short territory. Who knows what they're going to do?
They're throwing for it on 4th down. Got his man quickly. Turns out to be an easy conversion for this offense as they move the chains on 4th down. The Hawkeyes will snap it on 1st and 10. They're trying to slow that rush down with the draw. And he finds some solid space, makes a nice game before the defense is able to stop him.
Coaches always harp about staying ahead of the chains, and when you can run with that type of efficiency on 1st down, man, you are doing just that.
They can really be aggressive after that last play. It's 2nd and 3. The give to the back. And he fights his way forward, gets away from one, but not much doing on that one.
Well, you love to see that from the defense, right? It's like bend, don't break. They've given up a bunch of plays on this drive, but now that they're getting down close to field goal range, you're seeing them start to stiffen up.
Yeah, and plays don't matter anymore. Yards don't matter. All that matters with these defenses nowadays is points and limiting them.
That'll be enough for the first down as they mark it down at the 31-yard line. They'll use a timeout right before halftime, maybe time for 1 or 2 more plays. Time dwindling away as they try to put points on the board right before the half. Looking to throw, it's Sims. Unloads to the wideout. And they can't connect, but the flag flies, and I think this is going to be pass interference.
And the defender just way too handsy on that last play. You could see all the contact as the ball was in the air. You simply can't do it, and the referee's caught it.
One more play before the teams head to the locker rooms. Quarterback changing the plays at the line. They've marched to the red zone, and here they go. The pass is incomplete, and there are 2 ticks remaining on the clock. There's a timeout called as this offense tries to find a way to draw a little closer. Final seconds of the first half, and they'll try to put up 3. It is true as he puts 3 on the board. That's the end of the second quarter. That means it's time to join Kevin and our halftime update.
Fellas, it's one thing to have a rivalry game, but when you have 2 longtime foes separated by roughly 100 miles duking it out for the Cyhawk Trophy, you know emotions tend to run high. And there is no better place to start this halftime than by reviewing how this wideout has been a one-man wrecking crew. The kid's been everywhere. And I love how he's willing to go across the middle, but that he also has the jets to burn these DBs on the deep ball. If this defense wants to actually come back in this one, they better hide his cleats. With that, let's throw it back to the guys to see how the fight between Iowa and Iowa State plays out.
And the returner goes down. Iowa has the ball back on offense. When you're facing a deficit like this one to start the second half, you really can't afford to waste a single possession.
Fresh start here in the second half. That's the only way you can look at this if you're on offense. Things did not go your way there in the first half. It starts with one play. To get our confidence going, we just got to get something going early here on this drive.
One play, stay aggressive. Now I think I can be...
He's going for the big play. Holds it in on the left. Can anyone catch it? Inside the 10. Touchdown, Iowa! And once he got loose, it was all over.
And you got to have your big boys up front, creating you some time, buying you some time, and he starts all the way on the right side, comes to the left. What do you have to see? You have to see the coverage as you come across the formation. He runs to green grass, finds space, QB leads him. Nice, big, explosive play for this offense.
Two-point conversion attempt is on the way. Looking downfield, it's Sims. Pressure coming. Makes the grab for the two-point conversion as they cut further into that lead. That one's going to get a little star marked beside it on the play sheet. One play, explosive, touchdown just like that. Not going to give him a chance to make a play as they boot that thing through the end zone.
But there would have been some more
Iowa
big plays.
State
And
has
that's
the
what they're
ball
asking.
back. The
Like, they're
Cyclones
not,
ready to
they're
go
not
on
looking for him
offense.
to be a high
They
percent
had to
passer.
settle for the chip
Okay,
shot
great
field
plays,
goal last
big
time
plays,
tested.
and
They'd
farm
love for this one to
downfield.
pay off bigger.
Great
Yeah, it
plays
just comes down
with
to
his
execution,
left
too.
pitch
Did a
front.
nice job out
You
in
see
the
the time
field,
passes
stalled a
here.
little
Again,
bit once they
couple
got
games.
down to the goal
I'm
line, so they just
optimistic
need to be
going
a
forward.
little bit more crisp here.
Yeah, and listen, I think the first part was the most important part. You got to put the drive together first to get down there. Now, when we get down there, focus on execution and getting 6 points.
But,
It's first and
you know,
10
it'll
from the
be
38-yard
fairly
line.
tough just because of the investment made this year. So every postseason, I make a list of players who came up short or wildly disappointed.
Not a whole lot of
Those
room
guys
there. 3 yards maybe. Second and 7.
Yeah,
That's a
definitely.
nice
So
job by this
Parker's
defense.
here we go.
Understand
Not
that QB is threat, and they're going to run all kinds of options, and he's going to run the football there dialed in. He's got that stuff right.
We will start with the name under center. Another young quarterback. A player who actually was at the sense that
And he's able to shed one tackle and gets a pretty good pickup.
Man, this guy is so dynamic, and that's why you want to try to get him the ball as many ways as you can. That time, it's a screen throw, and he had some nice blocks downfield, but with his speed and elusive running ability, this dude is dangerous.
They've got it to the 49-yard line, and they'll move the chain.
And that's so tough as a defense because they only got to get inches. But I got to find a way to somehow get a knockback. Stop the running back's feet right there. I couldn't do it. He gets downhill just enough, and he gets the first down.
It's a good job, too, there on third down by the offense because a major statistic.
But you're right. It was like, I think that October 13th game against Houston came in. Hasn't hit that 300-yard mark. But if we're looking at the T-Ox, right? I mean, like the talent, I see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
He'll go into next year with some experience. He'll have opportunities. Well, And he has special skills. When you have a
Losing is how good are you at
that's
staying
the,
on the field, keeping drives
big
alive.
key. And that's
Whether
what
it's
he is
third
right
and long
now.
or third
Like,
and inches,
he's thrown
you
11
just have
touchdowns.
to
I
go
think
execute,
like,
and they do it there.
this year, Hunter Henry is fantastic. Everyone else
Didn't get much
is
on first down
right?
at
And I think
2nd and 9.
the bigger key for him has been the offensive line. That's going to be a big issue that they need to address over the offseason.
The run to the right.
Football,
He's
unless they do
dropped
something to
behind the
change
line
that,
of scrimmage.
it's
That'll
going to
be
be
a
struggle
loss of
for Rick
3.
going forward.
That
And I
linebacker
thought
was
those some of the
a
things that,
heat-seeking
you know, like
missile, and the heat that he sought was the ball carrier.
Great job, great feel. Linebackers are making all the calls in the defense and understanding when I need to come through that gap and come through with bad intentions. Those guys are usually 245 pounds of heat-seeking missiles.
And he was drilled just as he released the pass. It's incomplete.
So we're
And
in
the
the
Cyclones
process.
will
Gonna
line
start
up to punt
earlier,
it
I
away.
think, than maybe the Patriots would have ideally expected.
A fairly
But
short
now that it's started,
distance
I
here
think it's
toward
good
the
for him.
sidelines. Not
He's hit
his
with
best work.
Receiver, and he thinks he creates. See, I don't know
Iowa
if they
has
fix
it
that
back
all
on
the draft
offense,
at the
hoping
same
to
time.
ride the
Some
wave
of the
into
guys,
the end
some of this
zone.
year's guys,
A
come on,
quick strike
Spawn Baker
touchdown
seemed
up
to
top. The last
show
time they had it,
a
Jesse
pretty
didn't let them
significant
do it
hope.
again.
We
No
saw it
doubt.
out some
They've got so many playmakers on the perimeter, David. Just find a way to get these guys the ball in space.
And you already started, man. Making that big play, opening up this offense. This quarterback is feeling good about himself. I wouldn't be surprised if they give it right back to him.
That's going to be different, right? There, the offensive line is supporting pass. I think the other
Looking to
pieces
pass.
of your
It's Sims. He fires to the left
Yeah,
side.
Bob Harris will be
He's
switching
got
down
it
there. Give
downfield
that
for a
Bill
huge gain.
25 and 80
If I'm a defense, I got to find a way to get some more pressure on the quarterback or disrupt their timing and their rhythm. I can't give them these big chunk plays through the air. I got to be maybe a little bit more aggressive or do something a little bit different.
Opportunity has changed. I think the expectation has, Bob. James Conner has a 2-year contract, and we were putting this
Now
list
they'll
together
line
with
it
some
up
guys.
from the 44 on 1st and 10.
There.
Quarterback making adjustments with his receivers.
Rookie season with Arizona.
They
It's
move
tough to
the
say,
tight
Bob.
end all over.
Whatever it is. But we got to get opportunity right there.
They'll throw it on 1st down. The sweet feet keeping the play alive. Complete to the right. Big play for this offense as they get it to the 32.
I think you're seeing the chemistry between these two guys in that last play, right? Quarterback's on the move. He's got to find his big fella. He does a great job of finding the soft spot in the defense and settling down. He was a stationary target for his quarterback on the move, and that really helped him pick up that first.
And so, pretty much, Mike Dempsey, my co-host on Football Die Hard, is of the opinion that Trey Benson was very good. I have also
Defense there to make the stop after a pickup of 2 to the 30.
And the defense doing a great job committing to the run. When you commit to the run like this, obviously you can give up some plays in the passing game, but you got to stop the run first.
Picked up 2 yards on that last one. They need 8 on 2nd down.
I think we're going to talk about another one here, too.
Movement here from the tight end.
Like the passing numbers right now, like running numbers for us.
On 2nd down, he'll fire.
It's just a function of the cover 2, cover 4, cover 6.
Connection to the right. Gets out of bounds after the big play, and they'll be set up in business for the 1st and goal.
This guy just is so comfortable running routes, and he has such a good feel for those soft spots on defense there. They're playing zone coverage, so he's able to find that pocket, make it easy on his quarterback, and they pick up the 1st down.
And the Hawkeyes have it in scoring position on 1st and goal.
They were still okay, but they are not.
Dragged down at the 6 after a pickup of 2.
This is a hard defense to run to the outside against because of their speed. You saw in that last play their ability to go sideline to sideline, win at the point of attack as they shut down that sweep.
Yeah, and it's also hard when you get in the red because what do we do on defense? We bring in all the big bodies, so there's not a lot of space in there to run. I like getting the ball on the perimeter, you toss it out there, your running back, he gets out there fast. We've got a positive game, still a couple plays are left too.
He blows his way all the way down to the 5-yard line.
Unsuccessful 2nd down, and now they're immediately thinking, I got a little bit more than I want, so what are my pass plays? What am I going to get into here offensively? Try to have success in 3rd.
This offense in dire need of a touchdown is 3rd and goal, but this is probably 4 down territory.
one last thing on this list. And again, we've got 3 NFL players.
Back to pass, it's Sims. On the move to his left.
It's kind of
And he sprints to the end zone. Touchdown, Hawkeyes.
Didn't work out that
And these guys just score from anywhere out there. After that drive, it sure looks that way.
And that's what separates really good offenses from great offenses. Backed up in a bad position, and you can still fight your way out, go get you a touchdown. That's a great drive by the offense.
Young, and probably has that pedigree over that. Yeah, well, what Hubbard has now is money, right? He also got a deal that's $33.2 million.
They'll line up to go for 2.
So, like, not over the top, $8 billion, 8 years. So that again might be, timeshare money. And I think maybe we've seen a preview of that.
And he got a hand on it to knock it down in the end zone.
We've seen Hubbard's
Every coordinator has a couple of 2-point plays in his back pocket. They dialed one up there, they didn't get it. Let's see how that affects the outcome of this one.
57% last year.
And they thought about a return, then thought better of it. They'll bring it out to the 25. Iowa State sending the offense back out.
I think this team
after giving up that last touchdown, they still got the lead, but now feeling a little bit of pressure to answer with one of their own men.
And it gets a little bit tight. Listen, we're getting later in the ball in this offense. Much of the last time, they got to find a few plays that they really love here. Steal some momentum back in this ball.
They do, David, and after watching the defense just get gashed down the field that last drive, the dream drive of this offense would be to turn around.
What a grab by the defense.
Get off!
Really nice play on the pick. Was looking for a little more yardage, but great field position at the 34.
What a nice catch by the defensive back. Listen, a lot of times you see DBs get in position to make plays, but there's a reason they play DB and not wide receiver. Great job finishing the interception, catching the ball, and making a big play.
And they, look at how they rebuilt the middle of that offensive line in free agency this year. Maybe that's an additional focus. They continue to work on that aspect of it, and they're going to focus on running the football.
Iowa has the ball back on offense. By the way, last time they had it, they took it down the field for a touchdown. They can build some confidence that they could go back-to-back scoring drives here.
Yeah, and remember, it's not uncommon for offenses to find themselves as the game goes on. They had some things not go their way early, but they found something last drive, David. Let's see if they can build on it.
Yeah, you just pick and pick and pick until you find that place where you're like, okay, this is an advantage I have. They clearly found that dude. They score here. We're in for a ball game.
Talking about
so frustrating to see an offense lose track of the play clock and pick up a penalty like that.
I think was kind of the terminology.
First down here for the offense.
The way Hubbard runs the football. But having like that kind of David Montgomery,
looking for a man. It's Sims.
We're carrying the point.
Going to try to put one on the screen.
Maybe that's what we see with works of Hubbard. Where
They
both of them
finally get him
lines
stopped,
where
but
they
what a good job by that front wall to set up the screen and create some lanes for their running back. Lots of good stuff on that play. You slow down the rush, you get a completion, and you move the chain.
And most importantly, you're right. You don't force a short yardage situation that you have to get. Nice job. Fight that rush up the field. Take advantage of the aggressiveness of the defense. Make the catch, make the run, get the first down.
You live by the blitz, you die by the blitz. That time the defense held it at the perfect time. The linebacker able to make the stop on a short game.
So from the offensive perspective, that's probably making a little something out of nothing.
Bo Nix has turned out in Denver has turned out to be everything Sean
That's the end of the period, and Iowa State has the lead.
That's going to be
They've built a cushion, they've got a nice lead. Now the task is to finish the deal. If you take a look at the third quarter stats.
From their time together, and will pay off.
One more period to go. See who can make the winning plays and come home with the victory.
Let you enjoy the rest of the football season and get set for next season. Okay, buddy? All right, man. The vinegar, it's not sour, people. It's delightful. Don't try it. Like, you just got to age it. So you just got to outweigh the sour.
Second down now as they're ready to go back to work.
Football Dive, our show. Appreciate it. NFL breakouts when we return.
Always looking
Talk
to
about hardwood. Let's talk NBA.
It falls incomplete, and man, did they think they had that one set up, and it didn't
for that
quite
coming up
work.
next. A serious, that's it.
Indulge in a channel full of soft pop nostalgia. Irish Genius Oversized Blazers. That was my go-to. With a special guest host who knows a little something.
Facing third and long from the 21 and hoping not to settle for a field goal.
To work over at Hawkeyes, I would listen to this song.
To the air, it's Sims.
Moves
Moves away as he feels pressure.
Ooh.
Picked off. And the offense makes the tackle in frustration after the interception. Drive comes up empty and it's a turnover.
It doesn't get any better for the offense. You know exactly the situation. In the fourth quarter, everything in your favor. Don't let them make big plays. How about you make a big play? Nice job getting the interception. It's not icing on the cake yet. It's getting pretty close.
He's knocked down in the backfield. He'll lose a couple.
And I like the first thought process right here. Run the football. We want to run that clock with the lead. Thank you to the defense for forcing that turnover, setting us up. Now if we can put a few first downs together, we're looking really good.
After getting
Why the fuck they keep putting his
Doing
dude in
this
the game?
podcast is a chance for me and my good bud Woody to reconnect after Cheers wrapped 30 years ago. Plus, we're introducing each other to the friends we met like Jane Fonda, Conan O'Brien, Eric Andre, and trust me, it's always a great hang when Woody's there.
Listen to Where Everybody Knows Your Name on the SiriusXM app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Trey Anastasio from Fish.
Fish is known for legendary live performances
The thing that I like the most is that everybody says yes to every idea.
and on-stage improvisation.
When I walk on stage, I've trained myself to go completely blank.
Dive into their weird and wonderful world with exclusive commentary and shows hosted by band members.
There's a lot more preparation than might be seen, but there's also a lot more abandon than might be believed.
Fish Radio, Channel 29, and at home, SiriusXM app.
open this drive, it's second and 12.
SiriusXM is the destination for the best in podcasts. Get started on your
Quick
2025
strike complete.
with motivation
He's
and
brought
results
down
and the
solid pickup, but a little bit short of the first
focus on
down.
nutrition and mental
This offense is not letting up, guys. They've got a lead here late, and they are still taking shots. They're still looking for explosive plays. This defense just has not had an answer here all game long.
podcasts.
They'll try to move the chains on third and short from the 27. The corners are walked up tight. They'll try to get it through the air. Finds his big tight end. Love to see these third down conversions on offense, and they're out to their own 39-yard line. Boy, the defense really needed to get off the field here, and they just couldn't do it with the fresh setter down.
That hurts. When you're trailing late in the ball game, you need those stops, and you get them to third down. You get them to those critical points. Now they get to first down. You don't have many left. You better get aggressive.
He's got it on the right. Makes the catch, and he's brought down.
I love an offense that wants to stay aggressive. Even when you've got the lead late in a game like this, right, you still try to find your playmakers and get them the ball in space, and that is exactly what this offense is doing.
From the gun, the running back has it. Really nice stop there from this senior leader.
Great job on first down. Great job on second down. This defense needs to come up big one more time. They got to get the stop. Big time moment. I got to get my offense the football.
And that one's incomplete. They weren't just trying to move the chains. They were trying to move the scoreboard instead. It's fourth down. The Cyclones send out the punt unit. This will be the second time they've had to kick it away.
Basketball in 2025.
Nowhere to
on our
run and
15th for
nowhere to
2025
hide. That
Breakout
is
Stars
just
Special.
the way they designed it, and they've got them backed up.
Iowa
Iowa has it back on offense, hoping to ride the wave to the end zone. After throwing the pick on the last drive, need to take care of the ball this time, Jason.
We're going to find out a lot about this quarterback right here, too. How does he fight through adversity after that last drive?
Yeah, clear the mechanism, move on. That's a part.
He lets one fly deep.
Damn it.
Fires and picked off.
Nice job by this defense. That might be the exclamation for fourth quarter. I got to lead. Bring on the nickel defense. You know they're passing the football. Plays just like that.
And this bitch is still in there, man.
Thus far this
Defense a little too.
a step back.
What the fuck is he still in here?
He most certainly has, and the Indiana Pacers as a team have taken a step back as well. Obviously, this was a squad that represented the Eastern Conference in the East Finals against the Boston Celtics last year, and we can quibble about perhaps their path to getting there, but it still felt like Indiana behind Tyrese Halliburton was going to be one of those teams that could, potentially kind of be knocking on the door of moving into that top tier in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, it's been a really weird start for Tyrese Halliburton. It's hard to point to exactly what the reason is. The home road splits have been crazy. Every time it feels like he strings together 2 or 3 games, you think, okay, maybe he's back on track. And then there's been another dud or two. So both in the fantasy world and in real life, it's been a seasonal progression so far from Tyrese Halliburton.
So the early contact with the defense, and they'll move it up 5
absolutely.
yards.
Now, Nick, we're going to get to the list for this year. We did have a few names on the college hoop side, guys that were set to be drafted,
Still,
breakouts, and I would say one of them has been quite good. It's almost like last year this time I felt like
on first down, here comes this offense.
We had Alex Starr. Vincent ended up being the second pick out of France.
They'll leave it with him.
He started every game this year. Pretty solid.
Defense swarming on that loose
The other
ball.
two
It'll be a
guys
turnover.
First round picks.
That's what I'm talking about. Keep fighting, right? This game ain't over yet. Like, you still got an opportunity. Does it look good? No. But now, I got the ball back. Great job by the defense forcing the turnover. Now, let's see if we can go out and get this thing interesting, put some plays together, maybe get an onside kick. What the heck knows?
What this 2024 draft turned into was somewhat of a crap show. There have not been many drafts over the years where you go into the draft night saying, I have no idea it's going to be the number 1 overall. And, it feels like the first 4 or 5 potential snippets. And even as we worked our way through the lottery, we got it to the end of round 1. It was just a very distinct set of draft. We've seen that play out so far throughout this NCAA season, right? Where you look at rookie in your market and say, feels like a change tonight, right? We don't connect. We barely came or you listen to your favorites right now. Neither of those guys were even drafted in the lottery. So, very
moving into scoring territory at the 36
on still a lot of prospects in that class, but if you look at it in 2025, I think it's a different story. More of a traditional, type of class where you got 2 or 3 future all-star caliber players.
He's going to pass.
Well, let's start with the guy who I think got 2 years now.
Falls incomplete, and he did everything perfectly except catch the football. Second down, couldn't make the connection last time. Let's see if they throw it again.
He's going to get that selection, but
it's a draw.
What kind of player we look
He picks up 4. That'll leave them with 3rd and 6.
About Cooper flag for a couple of years, which if you are
trying to pick up a first down,
right? That's the type of player that you want to see at the top of the draft like this. And the one thing I watched Cooper flag so far is played in 8 games.
And he'll go out of bounds just short of the goal line, and they've got it right on the doorstep.
He's only 17 years old. He does not turn 18 until late in December. He reclassified to graduate
next year. Wide receiver shows motion.
He's still been one of the best players in the country. Certainly one of the best players in the ACC so far. Makes punch shots for me. Does everything. I think he's a really good prospect. It's difficult to watch Cooper flag and say, he reminds me of a good player at
score that they so desperately needed, and now they've got a chance to pull this one out.
Is the intensity.
Defense has got to give him a chance. The defense needs to get the ball back to them quickly so they can march down the field and try and score and narrow the gap again. This offense, they have the playmakers to come back and win this football game. They're going to need some help from the defense.
From inside his own 10, he'll try to help out there in field position.
Get that Chinese.
A full-time roster spot.
Iowa State has the ball back. The Cyclones ready to go on offense.
I think that's going to be a big reason
why he developed territory just ruined that last drive.
Yeah, and those are frustrating. You got the offensive moving a little bit, and you put that guys on deck, Jackson, but move on, reload, forget it.
At the end of the day, it's just fundamental football, right? They practice it all week. 5 points of pressure. Every ball carrier has to have it. They just got to do a better job moving forward.
I know exactly what I have to do here. Defensively,
we go to
gotta get the stop. So we're playing run. We're selling out to run because we're thinking they're going to run the football, and we got 3 timeouts. Let's use them wisely. Let's use those timeouts, save as much clock as we can, so our offense has some time on the clock to do some damage when they get the football.
Fast motion from the offense.
He's failed.
Touch pass on the right.
He's not the only high-level draft
He's past the 30.
I didn't even get a chance to take my fucking blow.
On that one before the defense brings it to an end.
200 pounds.
They keep it on the ground. Hawkeyes their friend.
At the NBA level,
Continuing to churn and move it forward, and they're closing in on midfield. It's down to the 48.
At this point of the game, the offense has the lead. The offensive coordinator knows they want to keep running the football, so he's going back, he's looking at his playlist and saying, which runs work the best for me in this game? What can I lean on right here to make sure we win this one?
Quick release by the QB. And the defense makes the immediate tackle, but he has enough for the first down. And the Cyclones are marching down the field.
Not all that interesting in passing the ball, but part of that, of course, is he plays alongside another software improvement country.
There to make the tackle, but the big throw is good enough to give them the first down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. We have arrived at the 2-minute warning, a one-possession game as this offense tries to hold on. Hand off from the gun. Nice, solid form tackle from this sophomore.
Names to keep an eye on for the next 12. Well, I'll give you a couple here. I'll try not to go too deep on any of these, but I will say two young players right now in the NBA. I think we're on the verge of real big-time breakouts this season. Real good breakouts to back in 2025. Those are Jeff Holmgren and Alex.
This defense will try to keep everything in front.
Specifically, you could argue that maybe fully broke out.
Leaves it with the back.
I think
and he doesn't find much running room. A short gain on the play.
Ready to go.
Quick timeout call by the defense, stopping the clock to save as much time as possible for their offense.
Maybe a year or two from now, knocking on the door of that conversation to be a top 5 player and one of the new guard of young superstars. So once Calvin Bankero is back out,
it's a makeable field goal from the 29-yard line. Let's see how aggressive they are on 3rd and long.
For example, this entire rookie year,
go to the draw. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. Timeout called there by the defense, desperate to get the ball back and save as much time as possible. So on 4th down, here comes the field goal kicker in a huge spot.
Starting to come back for him, and obviously
it's good. He could have hit a string right in the middle of the uprights there. And for a quick update, let's go to Kevin Connors in the studio.
Dynamite matchup today, fellas. Let's show you what's going down. UCF is currently up big right now, and really everything they've dialed up offensively has worked. They're up by 35 over the Royals. You'll circle back. If anything big happens, you should know it.
And how about that one? Kevin will be keeping an eye on everything going on elsewhere. First down for this offense. Power football with the run. What a nifty run there to pick up the first down. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. They'll throw it on first down. He's going up top here late in the game.
What?
And this is dropped. Incomplete pass. He had a huge gain in his fingers and he couldn't hold on. No time to waste here. They've got to get set and pick up chunk yardage. And back to the air on 2nd down. Blasted as he lets it go. That pass is incomplete, and they're probably fortunate that it wasn't knocked free for a fumble. They've got to move quickly here. Still a chance, but they've got to force the ball down the field. Get it out on the screen. Still on his feet at the 45. And after the pickup gets to the sidelines to stop the clock and keep this drive going as they try to save themselves late.
Fantasy points. It's time for the NFL. But the fantasy advice continues. We'll help you wrap up fantasy points for playoff teams and DFS methods. We'll also start with off-season analysis. Gets ready to win your
now the quarterback changing the original play call.
Join us on Fantasy Football Morning, presented by Fantasy Points.
Back to throw into Sims.
Oh no!
Looking for the end zone. He was open, he had it, and he dropped it. Would have been a touchdown. Instead, it's 2nd down. The incompletion brings up a 2nd down. He's looking to throw. Getting to move. The offense pops it up, and they were on the move. And the offense will maintain possession. Son, that ball must be riveted to your ribcage. Got to get everybody lined up quickly. Time winding away. They've got to push the ball down the field. Here's a throw downfield late.
What?
Pass is incomplete, and the clock will stop with 5 seconds left.
Now, the defense finally showing some life there. It's been tough sledding, too, because this offense has been lighting them up through the air. But a nice individual effort that time, forcing the incompletion.
On 4th down, they'll pass for it. Takes a hit as he fires. Ball falls to the turf. The final pass is incomplete, and that's going to do it for this one. This is why the passion of college football runs so deep. The rivalry. And when you lose, man, does it stick with you.
No doubt about it, Reese. This was a game circled for a very, very long time. They knew how important this one was. But, David, you can't let games like this beat you twice, because this losing team now has to find a way to rebound and go out and play again.
No doubt, got to rebound, but this one stinks. This is the one that you have circled for a reason. It's a rivalry, it's bragging rights, but you're right. Let's get back to practice this next week and start focusing. This one's over, but I'm going to get you next year.
That's going to do it for us. For Jesse Palmer, David Pollack, our
Yeah,
entire
that's
broadcast
right.
team,
You
I'm
know,
Alex
this
David.
thing,
This has been another
like
presentation
Rocky
of EAC.
Already giving you a few NFL names, some college basketball names still to come in our second hour. We'll head to the gridiron in the college ranks and get you some names courtesy of Roddy Jones. Ray Flowers. We'll talk some MLB breakouts for 2025. And Boomer Gordon. Man, how do you get a name Boomer? I got to get that guy on my list. Boomer Gordon. Going to talk some NHL with us. We'll also reveal a PGA breakout for 2025. As we get rolling in our final few moments here for this hour, let's give you a soccer breakout, shall we? I noted earlier that in 2024, we went the U.S. men's national team route, and I call it a hit. Folarin Balogun of AC Monaco made his U.S. men's national team debut. Kid's not even 23 years old. He's got 10 goals in 36 games this calendar year. He's a pure number 9. He made his U.S. debut. He scored in Vegas in that Nations Cup or the North American CONCACAF. Let's call it. It's a hit. It's correct. So who are we following it up with? This is when it gets tough. Who's going to be our soccer player for this year? Work with me here. Victor Yurkurish. Now, when you hear Yurkurish, Victor Yurkurish, I challenge anybody to spell that. Anyone. He's a Swedish international. Yurkurish is spelled, of course, it's spelled this way. Gyokers. Victor Yurkurish. Currently plays in the Portuguese league for Sporting CP. He's going to be 26 this year. Why are we putting him on this list? Well, if you cared about the Portuguese domestic league, which is not any kind of deep or powerful league, it's not. I mean, it's nothing like England, nothing like Italy or France or Germany. So it's not like that. You know, it's a second-tier domestic league in Europe. But Victor Yurkurish is going to be sought after by the big boys coming up. Talking Man City, Man United. The two Manchester powerhouses are probably going to spend well over $100 million in 100 million euros or pounds, whatever it may be, in transfer fees. Big money. Big money. 16 goals in 12 games this year. Last year it was 29 goals in 33 games. These are not numbers normally associated with soccer. And like I said, when you've got two powerhouse, well-known, worldwide teams that are bidding for your services, and there's probably a couple of other teams. Maybe you go over to like PSG, Paris Saint-Germain could be involved here. But overall, Man City and Man United both looking for Victor Yurkurish. And it's a name that, hey, is getting buried over the Portuguese league. He's going to be elevated to the world-renowned EPL more than likely. And that is going to cause him to take off. And you get with those two teams. In the case of Man City, they always know how to develop offense and develop young players. They know how to develop everything. They're an uncanny powerhouse. Man United is a former legend, kind of like the New York Yankees, who've gone 20 years without winning anything. It hasn't been 20 years for Man United, but it has been a fall. They need some help, and Yurkurish may be that guy. And mentioning his Swedish background, he actually started with the domestic league 5 years ago, back in 2019. So
again, get ready to turn to 26, and that is the man to follow for this year. Got a couple of minutes left in this hour. We were talking NFL breakouts for 2025 with Bob Harris. Now, officially on that list, we had Drake May, Trey Benson, and Jonathan Brooks. There were some players very close to making the cut. And one of them is a player that Bob certainly mentioned, Bryce Young. I think that is a very good call. A couple of other names. Rome Odunze of the Chicago Bears, who has had a handful of very strong efforts for the Chicago Bears.